Okay, let's just dive right into this. If you spend literally any time at all looking into personal finance, you've probably noticed a really exhausting trend. It can be incredibly toxic. There is this endless, frankly draining generational warfare around money. You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? We hear constantly about what every single age group did wrong, how they totally fumbled the bag, or how they had it completely unfairly easy. But in this explainer, we are going to completely flip that narrative on its head. Our core thesis today is simple, but it is so powerful. Underneath all that noise, every single generation actually got one major financial move absolutely right.
I know for a fact you've seen these kinds of headlines. Boomers ruin the economy. Millennials can't stop buying coffee and avocado toast. It's so frustrating. Personal finance media just loves to treat entire generations like punchlines because, well, it's an easy joke. It gets clicks. But what this entirely ignores is the actual data. It completely glosses over the genuinely different hands that each generation was dealt. We are talking about completely different economic realities, wildly fluctuating interest rates, constantly shifting housing markets, and entirely unique cultural pressures. They weren't all playing the same game and just scoring differently. The game itself was literally changing under their feet. So here is the absolute crucial point we need to anchor on today. Despite all those massive economic shocks and constantly shifting markets, every single generation produced people who figured something out. The reality is, there's a hidden, incredibly valuable financial win in every generation's story. And honestly, the most useful thing you can do right now isn't to feel superior about your own age group. It's to look at the data and steal the absolute best instincts from all four of them.
Section 1. Boomers, the instinct for ownership. Let's talk about Robert, who's 68. Now, boomers get a whole lot of grief online, but stay with me here. Robert bought a house back in 1983, and here's what's really fascinating about that. He didn't agonize over it the way we do today. He didn't build complex, interconnected spreadsheets comparing renting versus buying down to the decimal point, and he definitely didn't stress test 7 different mortgage scenarios. He just acted on a very simple, very primal instinct. Owning simply felt more real than renting. The bank said yes, so he signed the papers. And today, Robert's house is worth 4 times what he paid for it, a massive 4x return. This isn't because he was some kind of financial wizard who perfectly timed the real estate market. It proves that his almost unthinking instinct to acquire a tangible asset and just hold on to it across time was fundamentally correct. That is real, compounding, wealth-building performance over 4 decades. And it happened largely while he was just going about his normal life. This brilliantly illustrates the great, undeniable financial win of the boomer generation. Instead of renting and waiting for the absolute, pristine, perfect moment to jump in, they embraced owning and holding. They instinctively understood that ownership compounds. Whether it was a house, a small business, or a piece of land, they knew in their bones that patience across decades is an incredibly powerful strategy all on its own. Now, they might not have used trendy terms like asset accumulation, but they had the instinct, and time did all the heavy lifting for them.
Moving on to Section 2, Gen X. Consistency under pressure. Let's introduce Karen, who is 52.
Gen X is kind of the quietly ignored middle child in these wealth conversations, which is a massive shame because Karen took terrifying financial hits, not just once, but twice. Think about her timeline for a second. In her late 20s, literally just as she was getting her financial footing, the 2000 dot-com crash wiped out 50% of the market. Then, at age 34, when she had 2 kids and a mortgage, the 2008 financial crisis hit. Now, in 2008, highly intelligent, financially literate people completely panicked. They paused their retirement contributions, they moved all their money to cash out of sheer terror, and they decided to just wait for things to feel safer. But by doing that, they locked in their losses and completely missed the massive recovery that followed. But Karen? She just kept going.
So how did she actually do it? Well, I can tell you, it wasn't because she was fearless. She was absolutely terrified. But she tapped into Gen X's truly underrated superpower,
automation. She built a system that made bravery completely unnecessary. Because she set her investment contributions to be totally automatic, the money just kept moving and the shares kept accumulating in the background. The right financial move became the default move. When the market panic set in and everyone else was losing their minds, she didn't have to be a hero. She just had to do absolutely nothing.
All right, section 3, Millennials. Simplicity over complexity. Let's look at Marcus, who is 38. We can skip right past the avocado toast jokes because Marcus actually did something revolutionary that his parents never even thought to do. When Marcus finally started investing in his early 30s, he completely ignored the glossy brochures, he ignored the traditional financial advisors in fancy suits. We see previous generations blindly trusted active managers, happily handing over 1.5% in annual fees to salespeople just because they had credentials. Marcus didn't do that. Millennials utilized the internet to cut out the middleman entirely. They opened accounts online, they bought low-cost index funds, and they set up direct debits. They figured out that the simplest, cheapest version of investing wasn't just easier for their lifestyle, it was mathematically the most effective one, saving them enormous amounts of money in compounded fees over the decades. The big takeaway here is that simplicity absolutely beats complexity. Sure, Marcus may have started a little late. He might have spent a bit too much on travel and life experiences along the way, but his undeniable, massive financial win was backing simplicity at a time when the entire financial industry was spending billions of dollars actively trying to sell him complexity.
Finally, Section 4, Gen Z, the advantage of time. Let's talk about Zoe. She's 24 years old. Gen Z is heavily polarized in the media right now. People either paint them as these hyper-savvy crypto revolutionaries or as performative spenders who only care about aesthetic TikTok hauls. But underneath both of those really noisy narratives is a quiet, undeniable reality. Gen Z holds the ultimate financial advantage. Let's break down the math on this because it is violently clear. If Zoe invests £200 a month at a modest 7% return starting at age 21, she ends up with around £700,000 by age 65. But if she waits just 10 years to start, so starting at age 31, doing the exact same thing, she ends up with £340,000. Think about that. 10 years of delay literally cuts her final outcome entirely in half.
This brilliantly illustrates Zoe's real win. She started before she felt ready. It was unglamorous. It was totally imperfect. She didn't have a massive, comprehensive financial plan mapped out for the next 40 years. But that small, scrappy beginning is Gen Z's true superpower. They are buying more time in the market than any generation before them. They started earlier than Millennials, earlier than Gen X, and earlier than Boomers even thought to start.
Section 5. Building your master playbook. The synthesis.
So, we've looked at 4 incredibly disparate generational realities. We have Robert holding property, Karen automating through historic market crashes, Marcus cutting out ridiculous fees, and Zoe utilizing the raw power of time. We're talking different decades, wildly different circumstances, and different tools, whether it's ISAs, index funds, or pensions. But when we bring them all together and really synthesize this, we see that the core instinct underneath all of them was exactly the same. What they all managed to do in their own unique way was avoid a massive wealth-destroying trap. They avoided prioritizing the signal of wealth, the things that just look rich, the performative spending, the appearance of building. Instead, they focused laser-like on the substance of wealth. They acquired something real, put it in motion, and simply stepped back to let time do the heavy lifting for them. Which brings us directly to your master playbook. We can distill this entire explainer down into these 4 historically proven steps. And here is the best part. You don't have to be a boomer to own something real. You don't have to be Gen X to automate your investments so you don't panic. You don't have to be a millennial to keep things incredibly simple and cheap. And you certainly don't have to be 24 years old to start or restart earlier than you otherwise would have. You can apply all 4 of these steps right now, today, regardless of what year you happen to be born. I really want to leave you with this final thought. And I want you to ask yourself completely honestly, which of these generational wins do you need most right now? Do you need Robert's unwavering commitment to owning an asset? Do you need Karen's automation to save you from your own panic when the market dips? Do you need Marcus's ruthless simplicity to cut out the noise? Or do you just need to channel Zoe, Stop waiting for the perfect, magical moment and just start. Identifying the win you are missing is the very first step toward actually going out and getting it. Really think about it. Thanks for joining me in this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.